This is Gemara in Shavuos, Daf Yud Aleph, rolling in the very top of Yud Aleph, Amud Aleph, and we like all the incredible Koyach HaTorah, the Zchus of Torah B'Rabim, to be a Zchus Refuah Shalema for Tinok Mrim Ahuva B'Soich Sha'ar Chayle Yisrael. So we're in the middle of comparing and contrasting what level of Kedusha, inherent or monetary, there is to the Ketores versus the Karban Tamid. On the top line, we finished Kedushas Damim Hu, that Ketores only has Kedushas Damim and not Kedusha Be'etzem, not Kedusha Zaguf. As a bit of a reminder, let's just look at the top Rashi as he explains that Kedushas Damim in Ba Ella Kedushas Damim. That Ketores only has Kedushas Damim, Shalacham Yichumas Alishka, Aval Bikli Loi Kacha. Why? Diti Kaddish Kedushas Aguf. It's not inherent. The Machtesha Shenischaka Ba Lav Kli Sharisu. The mortar, the grinder that you grind up the Ketores with is not a Kli Sharis, is not one of the items from the Beis HaMikdash. Asks the Gemara, Ela me'at, if what you're saying is accurate, that Ketores only has Kedushas Damim, ask the Gemara, Loti Pasal B'Tful Yoim. If that was true, then the Ketores should not be Pasal with a Tful Yoim, as Rashi says, Im Nagaba, if a Tful Yoim touches the Ketores. Why? Because that which Kedusha only has Kedusha to Damim is not possible till Yom. And what's the problem? Alama Tanya. Why did we learn? Nasna b'machteshes. That if the Ketores is put in a machteshes, then nifsala b'tzvul Yom. It is possible b'tzvul Yom. Clearly indicating that it has more than just Kedusha's Damim. And suggests the Gemara v'chitema, maybe you'll tell me, call Kedushas Damim Ifsla B'Tzvul Yom. Maybe you just got the rule wrong. Maybe really Kedushas Damim, even just monetary sanctity, is yes, invalidated and puzzled with a Tzvul Yom. But proves the Gemara that's not true. But we learned in a Mishnah, Minachais, Moilin Bahen, Misha Hokdashu. Karban mincha of a yachid has a din of ne'ilah from at what point? From the point when all the items brought into the karban, the ingredients, are made hektish by the owner. Kitsha bikli. Once they're made holy inside the vessel, then hochshu li pasal b'tzvul yaim. They are now susceptible. They're now ready to be pasal through contact with a tzvul yaim. And or one who's lacking kapara, who didn't finish his kapara process, ubalina, or kept overnight. Says the Gemara, what do we see from this brayso? Kitchu bikli in, only if it was put into the kli shares, and thereby it receives kedushas haguf, inherent kedusha, then it passes b'tzvul yaim. Something which is not placed into a kli, like our case of the ketores. So ask the Gemara if the ketores has kedushas damim should not passel b'tzvul yaim. Responds the Gemara, Elamai. Says the Gemara, okay, you're telling me that what the ketores can't be kedushas damim. Kedushas Damim. So what are you going to suggest? Kedushas Hagofi. You're going to suggest that what? The Ketores has real Kedusha. But if that is true, Elamayata says the Gemara, 8 lines down. First one on line is Meyata Tifasal Belina. If this was true, then the Ketores should pass old by leaving it overnight. And what's the problem? Alamatinan Hakoimetz. V'halavoina v'hakitoires. U'minchas kohanim. U'minchas kohin mashuach. All these different karbanos. U'minchas nechasim. Moilim behen. At what point says the Mishnah in Me'ilah? Mishehukdashu. From once it receives this level of sanctity, kedusha, kidshu bekli, then hochshu b'tvoyim u'milchus kiburim u'balina. And again, the same diuk that we had a few moments ago says the Gemara. What do we see? Only kidshu bekli, like kidshu bekli loy, and this is talking about ketayres. So says the Gemara, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. That what are we doing with ketayres? Nachamol, if it has kedushas damim, then it shouldn't passel. Then what? It should not passel b'tvil yoim. If it doesn't have kedushas damim and has kedushas agov, then it should yes passel belina. Amar le, says the Gemara, lina kamrit. What's your question? You talking about lina leaving a carbon overnight? Says the Gemara, 1 second. Shiny ketayres. Ketayres is different. Why is ketayres different? Hayel v'tzurasa b'chol hashana kula. Ketayres is different, says the Gemara, because its surah is always there the entire year. There's no time limit on ketayres. The only way you could have a lina is if there's a time limit. But if it's something that inherently is everlasting, then not. Let's look at Rashi for a quick moment. Hayel v'tzurasa, Rashi is on the first wide line. Einay mishana esmar isa, does not change its appearance. Hilkach. Afal gav de kedushas hagof. Isa says the Gemara, no, it has kedushas hagof. What was the problem? If it has kedushas hagof, then what? We asked. Shapasel bi'lina. Explains the Gemara, I'll tell you why not. Loy mivsla belina. Umiu mishekacha beklili karev. Once you put the ketayres into the kli to then bring it, then at that moment, because barabanan psolina until masalach shri b'shar miskacha bekli. So says the Gemara, ketayres is quite unique. Ketayres is unique that there's no time frame around ketayres. Ketayres is everlasting, and that's the reason why there'll be no psolina inherently. Obviously, once it's put into the kli to actually be makriv, that is the point that it will, yes, be pasoled belina. Ask the Gemara, we mikol makan kasha. 10 lines from the bottom. First one line is kasha. Says the Gemara, but we're still shver. So now we pull it full circle. So now Rabbah is able to hold that the carbon tamid and the ketayres have kedushas hagof. Says the Gemara, but yet what did we learn in yesterday's daf? You're able to be niftem. You're able to redeem them. Ask the Gemara, but wait, where does the kedusha go? If there is kedushas hagof, then inherently it has kedusha. If there was kedushas damin, like we started today, then it's a monetary kedusha. Then when you paida it, the monetary kedusha is transferred. But if it's inherent, if it's kedushas hagof, where does it go? My Rabbah, says the Rabbah, I'll tell you what's going on over here. Leiv Bezdin Masna Aleim, literally the heart of Bezdin, a chiddush hatayra when it comes to these items of the Beis Hamikdash, that the heart of Bezdin stipulates that what? The kedusha is conditional. That if you need this item, if they're needed as a tamid or ketayres, then hotzruchu, then they indeed have a high level kedusha hagof. V'im lav, and if not, then it transfers yiyul the demeim, it goes on to their value. So we're coming up that really it's a crossbreed between, again, this is just, I'm saying the words, not necessarily this the lumdis, how it works. But it's a crossbreed between Kedusha Hagof and Kedusha Stamim. Does it have Kedusha Hagof? Yes. But when it's not used, the Leiv Bezdin is a masna, then now it's conditional, now it transfers and it becomes Kedusha Stamim, and then it could be redeemed, and the Kedusha will transfer. Amrle Abaye, says Abaye, 5 lines to the bottom of Amaru Damar. But you are the opinion that says Hektish Zachal Dama of Kadosh, Kadosh Kedushas Hagof. You're the one that says that if you have a male animal and you're makdish it for its value, automatically it becomes Kedusha Sagof, and you have to bring it on the Mizbeach, and you cannot sell it. So the question is, if you're telling me that all Karbanai Sibur could be transferred, so they should be the same, but you say no. Answers the Gemara, look, Kasha. Hadamar, it depends how you're makdish the animal. Hadamar lidimei oila. Hadamar lidimei nisachim. The question is, what was said when it was given to the Beis Hamikdash? If it is lidimei oila, or if it is lidimei nisachim, then you'll have the leibesna masna aleim that it could transfer. Eis ve'abaye, continues the Gemara. We're just learned, we just had a teretz, a chiddush Torah, that when it comes into Rabbah, that what? We have a bull, a goat of Yom Kippur, she'avdu, that were lost. And there were other ones, other karbanai, since they were lost, were separated in their place. As we turn over to Yud Aleph Amid articulates the Gemara. Similarly, v'chein seiri avodah zara. We were on the wrong side of the page. Okay, chen seiri avodah zara. Similarly, the goat purchased for anytime one is there's a case of a avodah zara birabim, and they have to bring a seir and was lost. Shavdu v'hever shachrein tachteihem kulan yamusu. What's the halacha? If you find the original carbon, kulan yamusu, it has to be left to die. Divi Reb Yehuda, Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon, Mrim, 3 lines down. Yud Aleph Amid Yeru ad sheyistavu. No, you don't have to let it die. Rather, you let it pasture until it gets a mum. V'yim kru, and then you could sell it. V'yiplu demeim l'nadava, and the money stays with the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Shein chata sibur meisa, because we don't have to allow, because the chata sibur is not left to die. So says the Gemara, wait, Rabbi, you just taught us leiv bezdin masna aleim. You just taught us that we can have this unique blend, that something has Kedushas Agof, and yet it will eventually morph into Kedushas Damim. Based off of that, says the Gemara, why am I over here by these cases? Leima leiv bezdin masna aleim. Let's say that in a case where the animal is lost, the Bezdin stipulates, and the Kedusha should be able to transfer. Says the Gemara, Avudin Kamrit, Shiny Avudim Deloy Shchichi. Since it's not common, therefore we're not going to say Leiv Bezdin Masna Aleim, because it's not a common case. Ask the Gemara, Para Deloy Shchicha. But what do you mean? We find by a paraduma, which is not common, and yet Vitanya, we learned in our brayso para and if this alcohol psul sheba par can be redeemed for any psul. Mesa if it dies tipadi can redeem it. Nishchavu shechta tipadi can redeem it. Matachares na'imen, you find a different paraduma nice in it tipadi can redeem it. Shachta gavi marachasa. If it was shechted on its wood pyre, Ein la pedia lamis, then it cannot be redeemed. But says the Gemara, what do we see? We see that in as much as a para aduma is certainly not shchiach, yet kedusha could be transferred. You find an animal nicer than it, you can redeem it. Says the Gemara, so you just told me leiv bezna masna aleim doesn't apply to cases that are loy shchiach. Answers the Gemara, shiny para the kitshui bedek habayis. See, para is different. Why? Because the money comes to the upkeep of the Bedek Habayis. It has Kedushas Damim, and therefore the Kedusha could be transferred. Ask the Gemara, wait, can redeem it? Habi'inan hemadav haracha. How can you just redeem it? You should have to assess it, and you can't do such once the animal is dead. Answers the Gemara, Hamani Rav Shimoni Damar Kitche Mizbeach Hayabechlal Hamada Veharacha. But Kitche Bedek Habayis Loive Bechal Hamad V'Aracha. A chiddush of Rav Shimon that this din of Hamad V'Aracha to stand the animal and assess it is only by Kitche Mizbeach, not Kitche Bedek Habayis. Ask the Gemara, wait, Rav Shimon a Maseifa Shachtu Agav Marachasa in Lapadia Lams, you can never redeem it. But wait, V'atanya, we learned in the Brayz of Shimon Aimer. Teaches Rav Shimon, para mitama, Thomas Eichlin, a para aduma. Says Rav Shimon, can yes make food tameh? Ha'il v'isla shasa kosher. Why can it make food tameh? Because it has a moment that it's kosher. V'amar Reish Lakish. And what does this mean? Rav Shimon para niftas lagabi ma'arachasa. So what do we see? Mamish, the exact opposite of what our Brisa just said. Our Brisa just said that once lagabi ma'arachasa cannot be redeemed. Aber Shitas Rav Shimon is dafka, can yes be redeemed. Why? Because when it has a shas hakosher, says Rav Shimon, you're allowed to redeem it. So we're back to square one. So para adumas leishliach. Why is this the din? Elashaini para hoil v'tameha yikarin. Says the Gemara, para aduma is going to be unique in as much as it's leishliach. And if it's not common, we should not say leiv bezdin masna aleim. But because its value is so great, even on this leishliach case, we indeed say that it is leiv bezdin masna aleim. Amar Mar, we wrap up today's shir quoting the aforementioned Brisa Mesa Tipadav Chipodim as I Jim asked the Gemara, do we redeem Kachim Lalichalin Liklavim to feed it to dogs? So why does the Brisa say we redeem a dead para adumba? Amar Mashar Shemisham Oira for its skin. Says the Gemara of Akaimi Bezdin Umasna Daita to Oira. So that means that this whole shtickle tire that we just said, that Leiv Bezdin Masna Leim. Says the Gemara, that's only for what? The hide of the para aduma. Amar Rav Kahana Amri Inshi Mikamla Oina. People say from a camel, even the ear is expensive, valuable. Small piece of something expensive has a very good value, and therefore says the Gemara, in as much as the para aduma is expensive, therefore there would yes be a leiv bezdin masna aleim, even just for its oira. Continues the Gemara, going back to din of Rabbah, that leiv bezdin masna aleim on these karbanos of the tzibur, the tamid, the ketairis. Esvei asked the Gemara, I'm related Rav Shimon, my sheikh Rav Zebezeh. What is the halacha? Different carbon musaf, can they be brought one in place of the other? Amr lahu, yeah, yikravu. Amr lei, this Chachamim said, Hayel vein kabras and shava. I don't understand. Hechen krivin, not every carbon is the same, so how can you swap one for the next? Amr lehem, Rashim responds, kulam ban lechaper, al tomas mikdash v'kodashav, everything is there for komas mikdash v'kodashav. Asked the Gemara, that was a din that we've quoted prior. Asked the Gemara, according to that which we're saying, why don't we say that leiv bezdin masna aleim, that if they don't need for purpose A, they can be used for purpose B. We answer that what was the reason that they're all caught for one kapara l'kumas mikdash v'kodashav. But why do we need that? Why don't we just say it's leiv bezdin masna aleim? Answers the Gemara, Rav Shimon Ka'amrit. Rav Shimon, less leiv bezdin masna aleim. That was Rabbah. Rav Shimon doesn't hold of that. Amar Rav Idi bar Ravin, Amar Rav Amram, 5 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Yechanan, Timidin. Says the Gemara, Shlohotzchu l'sibur l'divi Rav Shimon. Niftin, you cannot redeem them. Timimim, you cannot redeem them if they don't have a mom. But l'divi Chachamim niftin timimim. Therefore, says the Gemara, according to Shita Rav Shimon, there is no leiv bezdin masna aleim. And let's wrap it up. For Rabbanan to pligilate Rav Shimon Mahu. Who are these Rabbanan that argue Rav Shimon that say that you could yes redeem the extra karbanos? Inim Rabbanan the Ketairas. If it's the Rabbanan that we learned in yesterday's Daf Klap the Ketairas, as we turn over to Yud Beis Amid Aleph, Shiny Ketairas, says the Gemara, Tiloi bar Re'iyohu. Ketairas is not a good example because he can't be left to graze to get a blemish. Can't be left to graze to get a mum. So it can't be the Rabbanan. El Rabbanan de para. But Delma Shiny par de Demelia Karin, as we saw, that maybe the only reason why para aduma is different is because it's very valuable. Vela says the Gemara Rabbanan to Amrulai, going all the way back to Daf Beis and Beis. As the top Rashi spells out, b'masnisan, v'achi amrule, hoyel v'inka b'rasan shaveh, v'les l'chalei bezin masneh, shemavad b'zeh Yaakov l'zeh l'chapara acheres, eichein krivin, that was the kasha. Let's stop over here. We'll pick it up from Rabbi Yehuda, Mirza Hashem.